Umbanami saga that's going on. Now, I actually saw someone post on Twitter that World Rugby found Bongi Umbanami guilty of using a racial slur against Tom Curry. I can't find a single announcement that that's the case, including on the World Rugby website. No news reports. So that seems to be fake news. And whoever's putting that out there, if you don't cite a source, don't do that. That's nonsense. So a lot of people are already circulating it not guilty. Well, hopefully he is not guilty. But as far as I can determine at this hour, that is not the case. It's 5:30 Eastern Standard Time on the East Coast of the United States, 11:30 Central Africa time, which is South Africa's time, and Paris time, Central European time. 10:30 in the United Kingdom, British Isles, and Ireland. So enough of that nonsense. Let's not play games with this, okay? It's critically important to get this correct. So there's a number of issues I want to talk about here very quickly, but the biggest issue, and the reason I've done this video and I'm going live very quickly, is that the behavior of some people is absolutely appalling. It's ridiculous. Now, I haven't seen any of this. I've read it in the Telegraph, a British newspaper, a left-leaning British newspaper, from my experience. And, you know, they put all the stuff on paywalls, so maybe I'm wrong about that. But the bottom line here is they've run two stories about this. One, saying that it's nonsense about Bongi saying "vit cunt." That's not what he said, because that's not where it's occurred during the game. All right, fine, we can look at that. So they're carrying the water for Tom Curry. But the real issue I have here with Tom Curry is not Tom Curry, but the abysmal, atrocious behavior of people. The Telegraph is saying that Tom Curry is receiving death threats over his allegations of racist slur by Bongi Umbanami. That's ludicrous. This is reprehensible if in fact it's true. Why would anyone get death threats over this? Because he accused somebody of saying something. People need to wake up and get in the real world. Cabo Delgado province in Mozambique, Tigray in Ethiopia, the Sahel, Mali, Nigeria, Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab in Somalia, Myanmar's military junta hunting down Rohingya and Karen, Ukraine, and now Hamas. These are real issues. These are real concerns, real people's lives at risk and death. And you're making death threats against a rugby player? And that's insane. It doesn't make any sense. It's ridiculous. Now, we saw the same thing recently, and this is something that the officials in France and wherever this occurred need to pay close attention to. We saw Cobus Reinach get death threats, including images of his child posted on social media threatening their lives. This needs to stop. These people need to be policed up. This is unacceptable. This is a game, folks. It's a sport. It's a sport. France lost. Get over it. England lost. Get over it. Simple as that. South African fans should feel cheated and robbed in the 2015 World Cup when they lost 20-18 in a game that they should have won, but for arguably some officiating. There were no death threats issued. Nobody made these claims. The appalling behavior of Homo sapiens is unbelievably ridiculous. Cease and desist, whoever you clowns are, making death threats against rugby players. You bring shame to the game of rugby union. This is not soccer. This is not FIFA. We don't abide by corrupt officials getting bags of cash in their hotel room to issue cards to players who never touched another player and throw games and give penalty kicks. This isn't FIFA. This isn't soccer. This is rugby union. A real game played by real athletes. Stop the nonsense. Death threats against Cobus Reinach. Now, supposedly death threats against Tom Curry. Look, I analyzed this earlier. It appears that Curry didn't hear it correctly, misunderstood something that might have been uttered in Afrikaans. That's what appears to be the case. Now, part of the problem here, I'm going to lay the blame on World Rugby. It is Tuesday evening. In New Zealand, it's tomorrow. And in England, where World Rugby is based at, it is already Tuesday night. Saturday night this occurred. Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday. 3 nights. We only have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then the game is on Saturday. 4 nights. 3 nights have passed. There's 4 nights left. They should have reviewed this the moment the game was over after having heard that. Where is the TMO? Why is the TMO looking for things like this and saying, hey, World Rugby, you need to take your governing body, you need to take a look at this and see if there was something to it. England issued a complaint within 36 hours. Okay, so that was on Monday. So now they had a day and a half. You cannot let this fester. And this is part of the problem. World Rugby, the governing body of rugby union, needs to clean up its act. Not just the officiating and the red cards and all that nonsense and the bunker, but this should not be happening. death threats against a player because he made an allegation. Now, for this allegation, let's put this in perspective here. Now, this is something that's most frequently directed at people with pale pigmentation, called racist, with no basis whatsoever. The allegation has been raised against someone with darker skin pigmentation now from Africa, and we don't see that often. Although certainly racism is not germane, or not germane. It's not unique, I should say, not unique to any particular skin pigmentation or ethnic orientation. There are bigots and racists in all ethnicities, all races, all skin tones, all colors. Try going to China if you're an African, see how that goes over. Black skin African. Yeah, so try being a black skin African in parts of the Arab world. See how that goes for you. That's not to say that Arabs and Chinese are bigots, just saying that there are challenges for many people going there. But this cannot be the norm. We cannot allow this in rugby union. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. Threatening people's lives. And World Rugby taking so long to reach a conclusion. What are they waiting on? Have they talked to the players? I mean, that's a fair question. That is a fair question. Have they talked to the players? They should have talked to the players long ago. Now, a lot of people on social media are making light of this. I saw, it's very interesting to see, of course, and you would expect, that very much one direction from South African reporting and now very much a different direction from English reporting. Listen, I think people need to be fair and balanced, like I was in my previous video earlier today, in which I talked about the possibility that maybe Curry made a mistake, the possibility that maybe Bongi had actually said something in Afrikaans was misinterpreted, and also the possibility that Curry is correct and Bongi did say something offensive. But again, it seems wildly out of character. It's not a term that South Africans use by and large. I mean, they're not. It's not an alien term to them. They speak English, many South Africans, but it's not something you hear South Africans running around using all the time. They'll call you something begins with a D, usually, if they want to insult you. But we don't know. And World Rugby is not helping the situation. They're exacerbating the situation by drawing this out. Now, you're going to say, but wait, you can't rush to judgment. You know what? If the World Cup was over, then they can have 2 weeks to adjudicate this. But the World Cup is not over. And what does or does not happen with this decision could affect the outcome of the World Cup. And as a consequence, it ought to be all hands on deck. Everybody who plays any role in adjudicating anything for World Rugby should be involved in this right now, adjudicating this and finding a solution. This is not acceptable. Not acceptable, folks. It's not tolerable. Both the allegation, if it's true, the allegation, if it's false, and the interminable delay from World Rugby to look at this. Their argument's going to be, well, we have to wait 36 hours to get a complaint. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. You can look at this the night that it occurred, on Saturday night. You can look at it on Sunday. You can look at it on Monday when the allegation is forwarded to you. If it's never forwarded to you, then you don't have to take action. That is a lame excuse, and that is unacceptable by World Rugby. They need to get their act together. This is man, my goodness. I don't know what to say, but adults need to enter the room at World Rugby and start getting this act together. Now, today, World Rugby is focused on, making money because they're announcing the expansion of the World Cup for 2027, 24 teams, despite the fact that many rugby unions are near bankrupt or in bankruptcy and don't have the funds. And they've also announced the implementation of their cherished Big Boys Only Club for the Six Nations and for the 4 Southern Hemisphere teams to participate in the Rugby Championship. So they will be having exclusive competition, which will allow for 2 more entrants to come in, be chosen by Sanzar, and every other year, so biannually. Or is that twice a year, biannually? That's a tough way to do it. So presumption is every other year, not twice a year. But that means that the big boys play the big boys, and it continues. So Tier 2 and Tier 3 nations, screw you, says World Rugby. Now, some analysts will take a different approach to this, but not me. I know exactly what this means. This means more of Six Nations, more of Australia, South Africa, New Zealand, and Argentina, to the detriment of countries like Portugal, Japan, Fiji, United States, Canada, Romania. They'll be left on the outside. Georgia left on the outside, and that's just not right. So you know what? At some point, these stupid decisions are going to undermine the growth of the sport of rugby, the best game out there. So it's just really a shame. Anyway, folks, I just wanted to get on record saying that if anybody, in fact, is making death threats against Tom Curry, your actions are criminal. And hopefully, someone in the cybersecurity world will track you down with a warrant being issued so you can be arrested and prosecuted for your actions. And the same for those who made death threats, the disgusting death threats against Cobus Reinach and his child. And here's a little hint. One more thing about this. I'll tell the hint in a second. Well, the hint is this. You lost France. You lost England. But here's the thing. I attended World Cup games in France and was dismayed at the behavior of the fans. Now, the first game I went to was in St. Etienne. It was Namibia and Italy. And whenever the kicker would kick, I thought they just didn't like Namibia. They were making noise and cheering and shouting and disturbing the kicker. But then they did the same thing against Italy, and it was an overwhelmingly pro-Italy crowd base, so I didn't understand that. But in later games, I noticed, both watching on television and attending games, that wasn't the norm. That was kind of an offshoot where the Italian fans were there. But most places, they respected the kicker. However, when Owen Farrell would play, the French fans would boo him. In the semifinal, after France lost to South Africa, the behavior of the French fans was obnoxious at the Stade de France. Booing, jeering, making all kinds of noise, trying to disrupt Henri Pollard. Now, this is the height of irony, ladies and gentlemen. We had French fans rooting for, cheering for England. Now, could you ever in your life ever imagine that French fans, by and large, en masse, would root for the English? Never in my lifetime would I expect to see that. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. But the behavior of fans at disrupting the game instead of respecting the kicker, particularly when the thing is up there on the screen says respect the kicker, is just atrocious. And it's not something we should see in rugby. Knock it off. That's not a big complaint. The real complaint here is about people threatening Tom Curry and, of course, those threatening Kopitz Reinach. It's just utterly ridiculous. It needs to stop. And World Rugby needs to get its act together. All right, let me take a look at the comments and see what people had to say, and then I'm going to wrap up here. Okay, so good evening, says Dylan. Okay, it's insane. These keyboard warriors have no idea what reality is. Exactly, Jacques, 100%. England's declaring war on us. By is offended by everything. Yeah, it's a grievance culture, folks. That's what it is. It's a grievance culture. People just have a grievance. They don't use common sense. The Germans lost, but Kaiser Wilhelm was Queen's grandson. Bloody PC. What's bloody PC? Oh, everything's a bloody PC. Colonel, can I get a shout out? Roger Rabbit OG, you can have a shout out. According to the Daily Mail, granted it's tabloid, it said it happened during another off ball. Yeah, exactly. That's what they're saying. The Daily Mail. I saw that, and they also said that the Telegraph said the same thing. What's this? Here's the OG. My boss thinks that company would be better off without me. Sorry to hear that, Roger Rabbit. Who is Tom Curry? There are feds in the chat. They work for Sleepy Joe. There's always feds here. All right, so what else you got? Can you get a shout? I already gave you a shout out. You're welcome. From my side, I'm looking forward to a good game, as am I. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the game, folks. So that's it. I'm going to read those comments. Thank you all for being here. It's kind of longer than I expected, about 13 minutes. But, people need to start being adults. It's a game. Yeah, it's a business too, but it's a game, ultimately. This is not Gaza. This is not the Donbass. This is not the Crimea. This is not Cabo Delgado. Knock it off. Start behaving like adults. Yeah, so World Rugby, get to it. Get an answer. We want to know the answer. By the way, how you like the background? Pretty cool. All right, good night, folks. Thanks for being here, and thanks for watching my other video. Hopefully people will catch this one as well. I realize it's late in Europe and in South Africa, but hopefully it'll catch on and people see this, and maybe people will agree with me that this behavior is reprehensible. We cannot tolerate it. God bless. Have a good night, and thank you for your time. Cheers, everybody.